Happy day 3, everyone. So today's lecture is going to be about fascism, communism, totalitarianism. These are all kind of complex words that we sometimes just need to have a conversation about. Normally in class, I'm able to address this as I mentioned in the first time, but I felt like I just needed to make a separate video for all of this today. So, Mr. Osborne, Fairview High School, and again, today we're going to be talking about fascism, communism, and totalitarianism. Here's the problem. You can't compare these three ideologies. I mean, you might as well be trying to compare apples, oranges, and dragon fruit. All right, it just doesn't work. But for the sake of education, here we go. So totalitarianism, the proper definition is a system of government that is centralized and dictatorial and requires complete subservience to the state. All right, the Soviet Union under Stalin, Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, these are all totalitarian states. If the government tells you exactly how to be and you don't have any power to change the government, then you live under totalitarianism. All right, here in the United States, we have democracy. We don't like what our leader says, we vote for a different person the next time we're able to. Okay? And totalitarianism isn't tied to any political ideology. It's simply a style of governing a country. Okay? Good. Let's move on to communism. Is a political theory derived from Karl Marx, advocating class war and leading to a society in which all property is publicly owned and each person works and is paid according to their abilities and needs. That's a nice definition, but what it really kind of boils down to is, communism is an economic theory. All right, it's directly opposed to capitalism. Capitalism is economic theory that promotes private ownership and profit to get ahead in society. So here in the United States, we live in a capitalist society. You want stuff, you work hard to get it, or you have money to begin with and you get more stuff. The example I often use in class is, hey, I like those shoes. Can I use them? Everyone's like, no, those are my shoes. Well, in communism, there is no my. All right, there is no my. You don't own anything. It is all a shared resource. So while capitalism is all about private ownership, communism is about property that is communal, communism. No one owns anything and profit is pointless because you own nothing to show for it. So there's no drive towards gaining stuff because no one has stuff. So here's the catch. When communism becomes a political ideology that is used by a government, it has historically been used by the poor and lower classes in society to take power and wealth away from the highest levels in society. Communists must overthrow the government. You don't have an established government that decides to go communist because the people in power are often wealthy, and why would they want to get rid of that wealth and redistribute it to everyone else? And normally, or traditionally, the factory workers, represented by the hammer, and the farmers, represented by the sickle, were the proletariat or lower class that supported the revolution. So the government is often controlled by the bourgeoisie or the elite class, and the revolutionary class is the proletariat, and those are the workers. All right, so all working men unite is kind of how Karl Marx ends his Communist Manifesto. So again, communism more is an economic theory. When it turns into government, it's a way for the lower classes to take power, wealth, away from the upper classes and then redistribute it to everyone. So technically everyone is equal, but according to history, it hasn't quite worked out that way. All right, so here's a tricky one. Fascism. Fascism is tricky because, well, let's just take a look at the definition. It's a governmental system led by a dictator having complete power, forcibly suppressing opposition and criticism, regimenting all industry, commerce, etc., and emphasizing an aggressive nationalism and often racism. What makes fascism tricky is that there's not a single core definition of fascism. But the way that we understand fascism is that if a government has similar characteristics to Mussolini's Italy or Hitler's Germany, you live under fascism. So it's defined by the historical examples. Um, the key element is hyper and aggressive nationalism. Um, and in the logo there, you see that axe where it's a bundle of reeds. Okay, so if you take a pencil and you snap it in half. I don't have a lot of pencils in front of me, so I can't do that. Most people can break a pencil. Now, put two pencils together. Some people can still break it. If you put a bundle of, say, 10, like take an entire package of pencils and put them together, it is very hard to break it. And so the single reed can be broken, but a bundle tied tight is unbreakable. Essentially strength and unity. Politically speaking, fascism defines the far right end of the spectrum, while communism defines the far left. So on the political spectrum of left to right, communism is the far left, fascism is the far right. Even though communism is an economic theory, how it was practiced in political ways is an extreme liberal dynamic, while fascism is the extreme conservative dynamic. So here's the question for today. Can there be elements of fascism, communism, or totalitarianism within a democratic government? Kind of tricky, think about it. All right, can there be elements of fascism or communism or totalitarianism within a democratic government? Is the definition of democracy in direct opposition to any of those three? And so I want some examples. And think about all three. So can you think of an example of fascism? Can you think of an example of communism? Can you think of an example of totalitarianism? All right, you can use the United States, current environment, or the history of the United States as examples, or other global entities. But as you use examples, I want you to avoid degrading into name-calling and bullying. Please understand that we are doing this as a thought experiment, and I'm less concerned with you having the right answer and everyone else is wrong, but instead, let's think about this so that we can better understand the world around us.